bring in Professor Bennett Gershman. He got a very distinguished resume. Right now he's teaching law at Pace University, former prosecutor with Manhattan DA's office. There you go. They're the ones that are got Cohen. And he has authored a treatment called prosecutorial misconduct. It's not a book, right, Professor? It's a scholarly paper?
Sure, it's a treatise. Yeah.
Okay, a treatise. All right, so let's, very simple so you and I can understand it, right? Michael Cohen pays the women. We have no doubt that that happened. The federal government, Justice Department, says that's a campaign violation, even though the women were around way before the campaign. And at least one of them, McDougal, was trying to get money way before the campaign. Does that matter?
Timing is critical here, sure. And I think it's the timing that also distinguishes the Trump payments to these two women from the Edwards payment. I mean, two violations. The first violation is an individual can't make a campaign contribution of more than $2,700. The payment to Stormy Daniels by Michael Cohen was $130,000. Corporations can't make contributions. Apparently, the National Enquirer, American media, through David Pecker, made a payment of $150,000 to Karen McDougal. The payments were to keep them quiet during the end of the election, the presidential election campaign, because if it came out, it would obviously influence voters in the election. Now, you know, there are a lot of differences here. Yes, you're right, Bill. The two women were looking to get money, but they realized they had leverage. They didn't have leverage years earlier. Right. But Trump was running for president. That gave them leverage to seek payment, and it gave.
Is that a mitigating factor, though? I mean,
no, I think it's a factor that distinguishes this case from Edwards. There's no question, as you say, they received money to keep quiet.
Right.
Now. But again, the affairs happened a decade earlier,
right?
And so there would be no motive for them to suddenly come forward and for Trump to want to make the payment as there was for Edwards.
But I'm worried about I don't care about the women. I mean, the women are the women, and people can make their own assessment of their characters. What I care about is that I'm Donald Trump. I'll put myself in Trump's place. All right, I'm running for president, and this thing is an annoyance. And it's going to hurt my brand. It's going to hurt my brand politically. It's going to hurt it business-wise. It's going to hurt my marriage. So I'd say to Cohen, hey, get rid of this. All right? Get rid of it. And I don't use campaign money. I use my own money. Or Cohen at first said he used his money. I don't know. That's a key, where the money came from. That's certainly, right? That's a key. Where'd the money come from?
You can't use your own money. Now, listen, here's a critical distinction. Is the money to, as you say, to protect your own personal interests, your own personal brand, or is it political? Edwards was able to convince the jury that it was personal. He was paying the money to protect what he was doing from his ailing wife. His wife had cancer.
Right.
He wanted to pay this money to keep this mistress quiet so it wouldn't surface and his wife would learn about it. So there, it was clearly personal, and the government couldn't override that. The evidence was very weak that Edwards was paying the money to influence his political.
Well, that's going to be the same thing in this case, if it ever comes there, and I don't think it will.
But in this case, the facts are very different. In this case, the payments were made on the eve of the presidential election, and there was no reason for Trump to protect his own personal brand. Again, was it done to influence the campaign? The government says that it was done in coordination and at the direction of Trump to influence the presidential campaign.
Well, that's what the government says, but the government said the same thing about Edwards. I don't care what the government says. I want to know what the law says. So if I'm Trump's lawyer,
show that it was done knowingly and willfully.
Right. If I'm Trump's lawyers, now I'm putting myself in Trump's lawyer's shoes.
Right.
I'm saying to the jury, look, these women were trying to shake down my client. It's obvious they wanted to shake him down. All right? He has a shot of winning the presidency. He also has a marriage. He also has children. He also has a much higher public profile than he did a year ago when he was a TV star real estate guy. So, yeah, he wanted to protect all of that. And so he says to his lawyer, take care of it. I'm not putting the guy in jail for that. I'm not. If I'm a juror and that's what comes out, what I just said, I'm not convicted on that. Because it's not like Trump said, I'm going to try to violate these campaign laws so I can have more of an advantage to win. It's not like he's doing that. He just wants this thing out of there. That's how I'm seeing it as a juror. Am I wrong?
Well, look, the facts are going to make a difference in every case, every criminal case. The jurors are going to have to decide, if it ever gets that far, of course, whether it was done to help protect him from damaging allegations on the eve of the presidential election, or whether it was done for personal reasons.
But it's a slam dunk. It's a slam dunk because of the Inquirer stuff. Because the Inquirer stuff goes way back, way before Trump was even in politics.
But the payment was made. The payment was made the Inquirer payment was made in October.
But it goes. She brought her stuff, all right, to the Inquirer way before that. So McDougal, I'm talking about, and then they worked out a deal. They worked out some kind of deal to make her go away. But it isn't intent. I don't see an intent to commit it. I know Trump pretty well. Now, I could be totally wrong on this, and I want my audience to know I could be totally wrong on this. He could have been calculating to violate campaign finance laws. But from what I know of Donald Trump, he had no blanking clue. And neither did his dopey lawyer, Cohen, that they were violating any laws. Because they didn't know the law, and they were just saying, get rid of it. It's just not worth it. That's my read.
You may be absolutely right. Don't forget, though, there are other witnesses here, and don't forget there are also secret tape recordings. And we know of one of the recordings. And look, the government has
what are the secret? I don't know about the secret tape recordings. What are they?
Apparently, there are recordings between Cohen and other persons in the Trump organization, and with Trump. We know there was a recent recording.
Isn't that lawyer-client confidentiality there?
Well, that's a good question.
Well, can the government override that? Can the federal government I know when there's an obvious crime that goes away. But again, here, I'm not sure. But if there is a recording that says by Donald Trump, hey, I know I'm violating campaign finance law, but do it anyway, then he's guilty.
Look, it may be an ethical violation on Cohen's part, but it's, to me, solid evidence that would be admitted in a criminal trial.
All right, now.
I don't see any reason to keep it out.
I just don't see it as, I don't see it, but you may be right. Now, on the Russian thing, this goes into Mueller. Remember, Mueller isn't involved with the Cohen thing. That's just the U.S. attorney. Now we're into Russia. So Cohen now lied about condo, maybe, could be, maybe we'll build it, and then some Russians coming to him asking for whatever, and nothing ever came of it. Boy, that seems awful weak, Professor. It just seems awful weak.
Bill, look, you know and I know that there were maybe 75% in the Cohen and Flynn memos that were redacted. So we don't know what the evidence is, and those redactions might contain a lot of smoking guns. We have to just hold off. And by the way, you know, if Mueller is looking to damage Trump, as you suggest he might be, why hasn't there been even the whiff of a tiny little leak?
Because he doesn't have anything right now. He doesn't have anything. Look, if Cohen is doing all this stuff, doesn't mean Trump's doing it.
We know Flynn was doing it. We know Manafort was doing it. We know. I mean,
well, I don't really know what Flynn was doing, because now the prosecutors say we don't really want any jail time for Flynn. He's going
because he was very cooperative.
Well, but if he did something heinous, Professor, as you know, we can't go in and say we don't want jail time. The guy did something to subvert the union here, the republic. He can't do that.
Well, look, all I know is he's been very cooperative. We know that 2/3 of the memo was redacted, of all the information that Flynn gave. Look, yes, we don't know a lot, and nothing has been leaked, so we're just going to have to wait and see.
Okay, and I agree with you on that 100%. So when you're watching TV, watching the news, and you hear these people convicting Trump of everything, do you just roll your eyes and just go, oh, that's not right?
No, you look at any investigation. You have to hold your senses and just wait and see where it turns out.
But they're not.
And it's not going to turn out tomorrow. It's not right away. But we're going to see probably in the early next year. we're going to see
we'll
the other
see.
shoes drop.
And it would have leaked already if they had Trump, by the way. I know how that works. But when you, all right, watch TV and see these people convicting Trump, as Ms. Maddow just did, I mean, you got to be rolling your eyes going, come on, right?
Well, I certainly think that people shouldn't be rushing to judgment before they know the facts. The facts are everything. I was a prosecutor for a long time. The facts are everything.
That's
and we
right.
just have to wait and see what the facts show.
And that's what we're doing here anyway. But all right, Professor, I want to bring you back after we get the facts, and then maybe you can look at them, and then we can know what happened and what didn't happen. All right?
Sure, for sure.
All right. You have a nice holiday, and I really appreciate you helping us out. I know you're very busy, Professor. Thanks
a lot. Thanks a lot for having me on your show. Bye-bye.